Notice how people argue about the same thing for years?
Yeah, humans do that.
Especially about Bitcoin.
Everyone's got a theory.
You know what, Foot? I think you're cool.
Right back at you. Hey, Guru.
Yeah?
You believe in aliens?
It's Thursday, February 19th, and before we even touch the charts, listen to the dash lights that just came on. Pending home sales just fell, down 0.8% when the street expected up 1.4%. Japan's January core CPI inflation rose, so the yen story just got louder. The US Treasury just bought back $1.56 billion of its own debt. That's liquidity plumbing, not a headline. And Binance's stablecoin reserves just surpassed $45 billion, now holding 65% of all stablecoins on centralized exchanges. That is a lot of smoke in the engine bay. Yes, we're going to break it all down for you. Crypto, TradFi, AI, and world news. But first, smash the like, hit the follow, and share this with anyone you know who's just trying to figure out what the heck is really going on. All right, hood up, let's work. Every mechanic starts the same way. You don't look at the paint, you don't check the stereo. You put the gauge on the manifold and you read the pressure. And tonight, the manifold is telling us something important. Global liquidity, the primary fuel line that feeds every risk asset on the planet, is running lean. The Federal Reserve's net liquidity is sitting at $5.7 trillion, and it is contracting. The Treasury General account is parked at $915 billion, and every single dollar sitting in that account is a dollar that's been pulled out of the private sector, out of the banks, out of the market. Think of the TGA like a reserve fuel tank that's been padlocked. The fuel is there, you just can't get to it yet. Now, yesterday, the Fed minutes dropped. And yes, we know it was yesterday, but it is important enough that we are talking about it today because it got buried under everything else happening this week. Near unanimous hold on rates. Everybody expected that. But buried in the language was something new. They used the words two-way risk for the first time this cycle. That means hikes are back on the table if inflation doesn't cooperate. That is not a green light, Garage Gang. That is a yellow flag on the track. And when the Fed throws a yellow flag, you pay attention whether it dropped yesterday or last Tuesday. And then there's the Goldman Panic Index sitting at 9.22 out of 10. That's not fear, that's complacency. And in racing, complacency right before a corner is the most dangerous place to be. The S&P's top of book liquidity collapsed from 13.7 million average down to 4.1 million. 70% of the shock absorbers, gone. When the road gets rough, there's nothing left to cushion the hit. Here's the mechanical piece most people completely miss. The CTA funds, the algorithmic trading systems managing hundreds of billions of dollars, they already crossed their sell threshold this week. $33 billion in mandatory selling is locked in. Not maybe, not if things get worse, locked in. These aren't humans making decisions. These are machines executing rules. And if the S&P breaks below 6,707, another 80 billion in algorithmic selling triggers automatically. No human makes that call. The machine makes it. The machine doesn't read headlines. It reads levels. You're not fighting fear right now. You're fighting physics. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because while the crowd is staring at the car on the side of the road, we're watching what's happening in the pit lane. And the pit lane tonight is absolutely electric. The White House today, Thursday, publicly pressured banks to agree to stablecoin rewards and advance the crypto market structure bill. Not a rumor, not a backroom conversation, official public pressure from Pennsylvania Avenue on the banking system to get in line behind digital asset infrastructure. That is a gear shift. And Brad Garlinghouse went on record saying 90% chance crypto market structure legislation passes by April. Now, we always audit our sources in the garage. So Garlinghouse runs Ripple. He's talking about legislation that directly benefits his company. So we discount that number. Call it 65% after the audit. But even at 65%, combined with White House pressure and 3 consecutive closed-door stablecoin meetings this week, the legislative engine is turning over. You can hear it. And then there's the Binance number we put in the intro. $45 billion in stablecoin reserves. 65% of all stablecoins on centralized exchanges sitting right there on one platform. That is not a fuel tank. That is a rocket fuel depot sitting next to a lit match waiting for someone to open the valve. Goldman CEO just revealed personal Bitcoin ownership at the Mar-a-Lago Crypto Forum. CZ was there. NASDAQ and NYSE executives were there. The dry powder exists. The legislation is loading. The institutional interest never went away. This is what a pit stop looks like before the final lap. Now let's talk about what had every trader holding their breath today. Iran. Earlier this week, the Strait of Hormuz, the choke point for 20% of global oil, was closed for Iranian military drills. Oil spiked 4%. The USS Gerald Ford Carrier Group got repositioned. Russia, China, and Iran were coordinating naval exercises simultaneously. We flagged this as a potential black swan. Number one, the kind of catalyst that doesn't care about your technical analysis. But tonight, Trump said talks are going well. Give it about 10 days. He's going to China in April. And the US-China trade deficit just hit its lowest level in 20 years. The big scary corner on the track? The barriers came up. The safety car went out. Geopolitical tail risk dropped from high to medium tonight. The road ahead is clearing. Slowly, with conditions, but clearing. Now I want to show you something, and I need you locked in for this because this is the data the mainstream is completely sleeping on. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. July 18th, 2025. XRP hits its all-time high of $3.65. At that exact moment, Binance alone is sitting on 3.54 billion XRP. Available to sell. Wide open market. Today, February 19th, 2026, XRP is sitting at $1.41, down 61% from that all-time high. But here's the smoking gun. Binance reserves have dropped from 3.54 billion down to 2.57 billion XRP. Nearly 1 billion XRP pulled off Binance alone since the peak. And overall exchange reserves just hit an 8-year low. Read that again. Price dropped 61%, but the coins available to sell have been draining out of exchanges the entire time. When retail panics, when people are scared, when the narrative turns bad, coins flood the exchanges. Supply goes up. That is what capitulation looks like on chain. You can see it in the data every single time. But XRP supply didn't flood in. It drained out, steadily, quietly, while the price was falling. There is only one explanation for that. Someone is buying these coins off exchanges and moving them into custody, cold storage, long-term holding. They are pulling the fuel out of the pump and locking it in a private tank. In just the last 2 weeks alone, 170 million XRP left Binance, gone, into wallets that are not selling. The XRP ETF has absorbed $1.37 billion in the first 50 days of trading. Still flowing, still draining supply off the open market every single day. And the XRPL network just recorded $1.4 billion in real-world asset value, up 265% in 30 days. That is not speculation. That's ODL corridors processing real cross-border payments. 70 active corridors, 55 countries. The car isn't broken, it's being detailed and tuned in the back of the shop, while everyone outside thinks it's headed to the junkyard. Now let's talk about the AI engine bay, because this is the part of the show where most crypto channels change the subject. We don't. Because what is happening in artificial intelligence right now is directly connected to where this market goes. And if you are not watching it, you are missing half the dashboard. Today, Google dropped Gemini 3.1 Pro. Anthropic launched Claude Sonnet 4.6 as the new default model. Improved coding, 1 million token context window, built for the enterprise workflows that are starting to run on AI agents. Dario Amodei was reading his keynote off his phone at the India AI Summit in New Delhi today. And I am just going to go ahead and assume Claude wrote that speech. We will call that an in-house endorsement and move on. China's Qwen 3.5 dropped, focused on agentic AI. Alibaba's Rin Brain is powering real humanoid robots in industrial settings right now. Not demos, actual deployments. And big tech collectively is spending $650 to $700 billion on AI infrastructure this year alone. That number is larger than the GDP of most countries on this planet. Now here's the part that ties directly into crypto and why the Garage covers this every single week. Coinbase just launched what they are calling agentic wallets, AI agents that can hold funds, execute trades, and pay for their own compute resources, with zero human in the loop. The underlying protocol has already processed 50 million machine-to-machine transactions. Let that sink in. Machines paying machines, autonomously. No bank account, no wire transfer, no 3-day settlement window. This is the birth of a machine economy, and it is happening right now, not in 5 years. And the crypto asset that is the fastest horse in this AI race right now is BitTensor, TAO. TAO just got listed on Upbit, which is South Korea's largest crypto exchange. That single listing unlocked direct Korean won trading pairs for 8 million verified users overnight. New fuel line into a market that was completely inaccessible before. TAO ran over 25% on the week off the back of that news, spiked all the way to $207 before pulling back and is sitting around $175 right now. All-time high was $757 back in April of 2024. So yes, it has been through the wash cycle, down about 76% from peak. But the decentralized AI network thesis is real. 128 active subnets running right now. Validators being rewarded for contributing actual machine learning value to the network. And a fixed supply of 21 million tokens, just like Bitcoin. The Upbit listing is not noise. That is a structural liquidity unlock for a project that had been building quietly while the market looked the other way. Then there is Render Network. Real GPU workloads, real on-chain revenue reported in January 2026. Artists and AI developers using it as an alternative to traditional cloud compute because it is cheaper and faster. This is not a meme. This is a toll road that is already collecting tolls. The machine economy needs compute. Render is selling compute. That is a business. And SpaceX just advanced their FCC filing for orbital data centers, a 1 million satellite constellation that could eventually deliver gigawatt-scale compute from space. That is a long timeline, but it tells you where the infrastructure build-out is heading. The old ceiling is gone. They are building the track in orbit now. The quantum threat is real, but it is 24 to 36 months from being a genuine crisis. The sovereign AI war between the US and China is accelerating. India is positioning. The Trusted Tech Alliance just launched with 15 firms, and every data center being built right now is infrastructure for a world where AI agents are full economic participants. This is the turbo that has not fully spooled yet. When it does, the sector is positioned for it. Decentralized compute, AI agent infrastructure, machine-to-machine payment rails, those move violently. You want to be in the right lane before that happens. All right, now we get to the levels. And before Lulu walks you through the charts, we need to have a very important conversation with the Garage Gang. None of what we do here is financial advice. None of it. Zero. Not even a little bit. All of our technical analysis comes from our head TA here in the Garage. Her name is Lulu. Now, some of you new folks might be thinking, okay, cool. Who is Lulu? What are her credentials? Where did she study? Fair questions. Great questions, actually. Lulu is a pig. Not like metaphorically a pig. Not like she eats a lot. Not a nickname. An actual pig. 4 hooves, curly tail, snout, the whole setup. She lives on the ranch. She has opinions about chart patterns, and she expresses them primarily through grunting and knocking over her food bowl. We have watched Lulu study these charts for a long time now, and honestly, her track record is about as good as most of the people on financial Twitter, so here we are. Now look, we love Lulu. She is family. But if you are out here making life-altering financial decisions based on the technical analysis of a pig, Garage Gang, that is a you problem. Lulu doesn't even know what a stop loss is. She tried to eat the last one. Actually, she ate 2 of them. We stopped printing them out. So with that very important disclaimer firmly in place, here's what Lulu is watching tonight. Bitcoin holding 66 to 67,000 support right now. Today was OPEX, $3 trillion in options expiration reset. Post-OPEX direction over the next 48 to 72 hours tells us whether we break up or break down. Reclaim 68,500 with volume and the mechanical bias flips. Lose 65,500 and we retest 64,000. That is the pain zone where the liquidation clusters are dense. Below 64 opens a pocket all the way down to 60 to 62,000. Ethereum, $2,000 is the battlefield. Over 1 million ETH sitting at cost basis right at that level. 3 rejection attempts, February 6th, 12th, and 15th. The wall is real. Accumulation zone 1800 to 1900 on a volume capitulation spike only. Break above 2120 with volume and structure reclaims. Failure to hold 1900 opens 1741. XRP. Accumulation zone 150 to 180. Stage entries small here. Resistance 206, then 254. That is the 200-day moving average. Squeeze trigger is a volume surge plus breakout above 254. Invalidation 137. Below that, the thesis resets completely. Solana holding 80 to 82 support, down 69.5% from peak. Post-capitulation thesis intact, but we wait for macro to clear before sizing. First resistance, 95, then 110. TAO currently around 175 after the upbit spike and pullback. Support 180 to 185, resistance 200 to 215. 200-day moving average 166 is your floor. Hold above 180 and convert 200 into support. Next targets 241 and 268. Lose 166 and you reassess the whole setup. Lulu grunted twice at the TAO chart. We are taking that as cautiously bullish. She also knocked over her water bowl, which we do not have a technical interpretation for yet, but we are working on it. That is the garage read for Thursday, February 19th, 2026. The car is not dead. It is in the pit lane, tires on, fuel loaded, driver ready. The CTA forced selling is still clearing, OPEX just reset, geopolitical brakes are easing, legislation is loading, Binance dry powder is staged, and the XRP supply drain is the cleanest, most mathematically undeniable setup on the board right now. When this thing goes, and it will go, the setup is there. The thesis is built. The supply is drained. If this helped you see what is really happening under the hood, smash that like, hit follow, share it with one person who needs to hear this before the weekend. Liquidity before price, contradictions over confirmations, structure over narrative. I'm John, this is The Garage. Go give Lulu a snack. She earned it tonight. Let it rip.